Welcome to Masculiterature, the channel where we study the intersections between masculinity and culture. Today we'll be looking at the connection between existentialism and masculinity. Existentialism is a philosophical movement that emerged in the 20th century, primarily concerned with the individual's search for meaning, authenticity, and freedom in a seemingly absurd and indifferent world. Existentialist thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre, Albert Camus, and Friedrich Nietzsche emphasized the importance of personal choice, responsibility, and self-definition. While existentialism as a philosophy does not explicitly deal with masculinity, there are connections between the themes of existentialism and the concept of masculinity in Western culture. As a social construct, masculinity often revolves around the notions of strength, independence, and emotional stoicism. These traits have traditionally been associated with men and are considered desirable characteristics in many societies. Existentialism, with its emphasis on individual autonomy and personal responsibility, can be seen as reinforcing some aspects of traditional masculinity. Existentialist themes of self-reliance and personal responsibility can be related to the societal expectations placed on men to be strong and self-sufficient. These expectations can lead men to embrace the existentialist idea that they must create their own meaning and identify in a world that offers no inherent purpose. This connection might be seen as empowering, as it encourages men to take charge of their own lives and destinies. However, existentialism's focus on individualism and self-determination can also be seen as contributing to the isolation and emotional detachment associated with traditional masculinity. In many societies, men are expected to be emotionally stoic and to suppress their vulnerability, as vulnerability is often considered a sign of weakness. This emotional suppression can lead to a sense of alienation, which is a central theme in existentialist thought. Existentialist philosophy can also be applied to the examination and deconstruction of traditional masculinity. By emphasizing the importance of personal choice and self-definition, existentialism can encourage men to question and challenge societal expectations regarding masculinity. This questioning can lead to a re-evaluation of traditional masculine norms and the development of alternative, more authentic expressions of manhood. Moreover, existentialist philosophers like Simone de Beauvoir, who is often considered a founding figure in feminist existentialism, have explored the ways in which gender roles are socially constructed and imposed on individuals. De Beauvoir's work, particularly The Second Sex, examines how women have been historically oppressed and marginalized due to societal expectations surrounding femininity. This analysis can be extended to the examination of masculinity, highlighting the ways in which men too can be constrained by rigid gender norms. Thus, while existentialism does not directly address the concept of masculinity, there are connections between its themes and the societal expectations surrounding manhood. Existentialist philosophy can both reinforce and challenge traditional notions of masculinity, encouraging individuals to question societal norms and develop their own authentic expressions of self. By emphasizing personal choice, responsibility, and self-definition, existentialism can offer men a framework to examine and redefine their own understanding of masculinity in the face of societal expectations. So let's take some few case examples. Could we see the work of Camus as touching on masculinity? While Albert Camus' work does not primarily focus on masculinity, there are aspects of his writings and philosophical ideas that touch upon or relate to the concept of masculinity. Camus, a key figure in existentialism and the absurdism movement, explored themes such as personal responsibility, freedom, and the search for meaning in a world that appears indifferent and meaningless. These themes can have implications for how we understand and conceptualize masculinity. In his works, particularly his novels like The Stranger and The Plague, Camus often presents male protagonists who grapple with existential crises and moral dilemmas. These characters can be seen as embodying certain masculine ideals, like strength, stoicism, and independence. For example, Meursault, the protagonist of The Stranger, is emotionally detached and maintains a sense of indifference to the events around him. This emotional detachment can be interpreted as a reflection of traditional masculine ideals that encourage men to suppress their emotions and maintain an outward appearance of strength and self-control. Furthermore, Camus' exploration of personal responsibility and individualism in his works can be related to societal expectations placed on men to be self-reliant and self-sufficient. These expectations are often considered integral to traditional masculinity. By emphasizing personal responsibility in the face of an indifferent world, Camus' philosophy can be seen as reinforcing certain aspects of traditional masculinity. But it is worth noting that Camus' work in philosophy encouraged also a questioning of societal norms and expectations, including those related to masculinity. His explorations of the absurd and the struggle for meaning in a world that offers no inherent purpose could inspire critical reflection on the societal expectations surrounding gender roles, including the concept of masculinity. By challenging the notion that there is an inherent meaning or purpose to human existence, Camus' work can open up possibilities for individuals to redefine their own identities, including their understanding of masculinity. Moreover, the theme of solidarity and collective action in Camus' work, particularly in The Plague, can be seen as a counterpoint to the individualism often associated with traditional masculinity. In The Plague, the protagonist, Dr. Ryu, and other characters work together to combat the epidemic that has befallen their town, emphasizing the importance of compassion, empathy, and cooperation. This portrayal of solidarity can be viewed as challenging the notion of the self-reliant, emotionally detached male figure. So while Camus' work is not primarily concerned with masculinity, there are aspects of his writing and philosophical ideas that touch upon or relate to the concept. His exploration of existentialist themes like personal responsibility, freedom, and the search for meaning can have implications for how we understand and conceptualize masculinity. His work encourages critical reflection on societal norms, including those related to gender roles, and offers opportunities for individuals to reconsider and redefine their own understanding of masculinity. Now let's look at the existentialist probably most outrightly concerned with gender, namely Simone de Beauvoir. How does she critique masculinity? A prominent French existentialist philosopher, Simone de Beauvoir is best known for her work on feminism and the exploration of gender roles in society. Although her primary focus is on the condition of women and the social expectations placed upon them, her analysis of gender roles and power dynamics extends to the critique of masculinity as well. In her seminal work, The Second Sex, Beauvoir examines the ways in which women have been historically oppressed and marginalized by a patriarchal society. Through this lens, she critiques the concept of traditional masculinity that perpetuates the subjugation of women. By dissecting the societal constructs that maintain gender inequalities, Beauvoir's work inherently challenges the traditional notions of masculinity that contribute to these imbalances. She argues that the concept of the other is central to the construction of gender roles and the oppression of women. In a patriarchal society, men are considered the norm, while women are seen as the other, different and inferior. This distinction not only affects women, but also establishes a rigid framework for masculinity. Men are expected to adhere to certain roles and behaviors that maintain their dominance, while deviating from these norms is often met with disapproval. Beauvoir's critique of this binary thinking reveals the ways in which traditional masculinity is restrictive and limiting for both men and women. Additionally, Beauvoir examines the societal expectations that men must be strong, rational, and emotionally detached to maintain their dominant position in society. She contends that these expectations contribute to the devaluation of traits associated with femininity, such as emotional expression, vulnerability, and empathy. By challenging these expectations and the norms surrounding masculinity, Beauvoir encourages men to embrace a more authentic and diverse understanding of their own identities. In conclusion, Simone de Beauvoir's work, while primarily focusing on the condition of women, also provides a critique of traditional masculinity and its role in perpetuating gender inequalities. She examines the societal constructs that underpin gender roles, and thus challenges the notions of masculinity that contribute to the oppression of women and the limitations placed on men. Through her work, she encourages a re-evaluation of the traditional norms surrounding gender, and offers a path towards a more equitable society that values the authentic expression of both masculinity and femininity. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe.